So I'm on the second day of a back-to-back. At the lower part, we did like an angel with like a chrome hearts cross. On this upper part, it's like a statue head with some stuff. You guys are looking at the back side of his arm, so it's kind of hard for you to tell what's going on right now, but we'll show you guys at some point what we're working on, the whole thing.
Any tips on doing palm trees?
Well, it depends on how big you're doing the palm tree. If you're doing it really, really small, I would opt for a more like almost silhouetted or fully silhouetted shape. If you're doing it bigger and you could add more detail, I would definitely treat the palm leaves like they're kind of like animal fur. There's like a texture you can get in those. And then the bark of the tree, there's some cool texture you could do with that. But at the end of the day, as long as it's solid, has a lot of solid black in it, and you contrast it correctly, that's what I would say for anything, not just palm trees, but anything you do.
Best advice for designing around jointed areas like elbows and knees?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You got to find something that will specifically sit on the tattooable part of the skin. So it's like, you don't want to put nothing directly on the elbow, but if you could put something like how we have this angel that's like above the elbow, but the back side of this angel kind of takes up a lot of the elbow space. It's like you're indirectly trying to fill in that spot. And then you never want to put a face like dead in the bend of the arm. So you would tuck it maybe right above it. But really you're just trying to close in all the stuff that you design around the elbow and then like close it in so that you can cover the elbow. Instead of thinking about the elbow like, oh, what do I put directly on the elbow? It's like there's stuff all around it and then you start to close it in with the design, and that's a better way to approach it.
I know you see your analytics, but do you realize how many people you really help? You motivate a lot of people.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you for saying that. You know, I probably don't reach as many people as some like really big names and stuff like that, but I think with our content, we really try to bring some genuine value, some shit that I might have wanted when I was coming up. And I think that's why we're so passionate about it, is because I've been there. I really appreciate you saying that.
What kind of ink do you use?
I'm using Intense Super Black for my black, and I'm using Intense Dark Gray Wash to make my washes. I've used other inks like Empire and stuff, which is really good, but that's what I'm using right now is Intense.
Any tips for reducing trauma for long sessions with a lot of detail?
Just make sure in general that you're applying it without overworking the skin. Make sure that your wiping habits are good. Like you're not over wiping, you're not dry wiping, because all of that can take effect on the overall pain in a long-term session. And then also could affect the heel. But then also pain management, you know, taking breaks where you can, making sure that you and your client are hydrated and have enough energy. Blood sugar stays high for the client. All these things matter because over time, your body starts to shut down little by little, taking this little bit of pain. And it might not be so obvious at first until you like hit a threshold or you go home and you realize how much your body has been going through some shit. So if you know that as an artist, it's like really good to try to mitigate that before it happens. Take precautions for energy, pain, all of these things. It'll help you and your client.
Does the super black clump up?
If you don't dilute it, it does. So a lot of people I tell to use Super Black, they forget to dilute it, but we dilute it about 20%. So 20% is water and the rest is Super. It's a pre-diluted ink and it's like a concentrate, so you have to dilute it. Most of the inks come pre-diluted, this one doesn't. So it's really, really thick. If you use it like that, it's almost impossible to use. But if you dilute it just a little bit, it's the most black that you could probably get.
How do you cover more ground and still make your shades smooth?
Bigger mags and simplifying your references and not trying to overthink it. When you're doing bigger pieces and you have more room to work with and stuff, it's bigger shapes. So all you need to know is like, okay, this shape is black, this shape is toned over, this shape is negative. And if you tackle it like that with a bigger mag and you have like a really good even hand motion and you're doing everything very methodical and stuff, it's like you can make like these bigger pieces look very intentional and have detail, but really you're just like keeping it simple in your head, tackling it a section at a time, little by little, one shape at a time, and don't get too far ahead of yourself. All of that I go into super in-depth on Tattoo Design Masterclass that we have available at iShineUniversity.com. I drop that specifically for people that want to learn how to design and tackle bigger pieces in that way. It'll totally change the way you see tattooing and designing as a whole. A lot of people have already gotten a lot out of it, so if you're interested in like leveling up in that way, you could ask as many questions as you want, but if you really want to know, you got to go to iShineUniversity.com.
Any tips on using value scale for beginners?
Yeah, if you watch the design course I did a whole diagram of value and contrast in the very first chapter that really lays it out pretty simply. But you know, you can learn a lot about the value scale of tattooing just from like drawing and using pencils and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you start off with just a few values, maybe like 3 or 4, and just try to master those in tattooing and just try to see how they heal over time and how they blend together and stuff, you can get a lot off of starting really simple. And then if you want to try to add more tones and values in the future and just try to like have more ink caps and try to layer in more tones and stuff, you can. But at the end of the day, if you start simple, you can get pretty far and have a pretty solid understanding of it just with like 3 or 4 caps of tones.
What's a memory you have that someone passed out throughout your years tattooing?
I don't know, man. There's so many of them. It's really hard for me to like pinpoint one. But I would say like one of the best things about tattooing is you get to meet different walks of life all the time, and you get to be in like a very personal space for a long time. So a lot of times you end up getting like a lot of life stories, a lot of information on people, and it's very interesting to see where people come from, what kind of stuff they go through to get to where they're at. I can't really think of one off the top of my head right now. I've met so many different cool people from different walks of life, but as tattoo artists, it's like really one of the coolest perks of the job.
Well, batteries that looks like power lamp, but mine doesn't have the timer.
This is the critical torque battery. They actually have like a really cool display on it. So what's cool is it tells you the runtime, it tells you a bunch of information, but overall it lasts forever. And a lot of batteries that I've gotten, they end up dying out after a while and then they die hella fast. But I've had these for a long time and they're fucking solid. So I got 2 of these. These are the best batteries I've ever used. So critical torque battery.
Do you tattoo in stages like black first, then the middle tone, then lights?
I definitely have a system. I definitely gray line anything first that needs to have like a really defined edge. So I'll do that. And then I'll focus on solid black shapes, which is like anything that I'm going to outline black and fill in solid black. And then after that, I'll start with my darkest shading just to get the full structure and foundation of whatever I'm tattooing. And I'll start creeping into my lighter grays. But having a system is super important because you can tackle each tattoo no matter what you're tattooing the same way, and you can get a similar effect. And that's how you develop your own style.
What do you think about critical torque 4.2 mm?
This is a critical torque 3.5 stroke. I don't know about the 4.2, but this is the 3.5, and I love this machine. It has a little bit of give. It doesn't hit as hard as like a wand or anything like that, but it gives me a lot of leeway to apply pressure where I need to without overworking the skin and that type of stuff. So I love the critical torque as a machine, but I've never used the 4.2 stroke.
Do you build tones with hand pressure or ink percentage?
That's a good question. So I see applying ink and grays as 2 different ways. You're either packing and saturating or you're like finessing the gray in, right? So if you're in like a really deep area where it's a lot of dark shades and black and really dark gray, like on this side of the face that I'm doing, there's a lot of saturating going on. When you get to the lighter side of the face and you're trying to fade out to skin, there's a lot of finessing going on, so it's more surfacey with a lighter gray. There is situations where I'll pack a lighter gray, but it just depends on where I'm at. But if you're trying to fade out to skin and get that very buttery, smooth, out to open skin, negative space, that's more of a finessing technique with a light gray. And then when you're getting into the darker areas, I try to go right in with the tone that I want it to be, and I just go straight in and try to saturate it first try. That way it heals more accurate to the tone that I actually used.
What are great tips for shading for a beginner tattoo?
Take your time, start a little shallow with the needle, and then play around with certain things. Play around with different voltages, different hand speeds. But overall, I would try to move your hand slower than faster at first, just so you can get the feel for what the needle feels like hitting the skin. A lot of people are going to approach it and try to just do this, and they're kind of shaky, and they don't really know what they're doing, and they're like, man, why isn't my shit smooth? Just take your time and like slow down and feel the needles hitting the skin and how deep it's going, what does it look like when you wipe, adjust a little bit, try something new, and then overall getting the reps in, because at the end of the day, the fundamentals is what matters, you know.
Punch tats. I fuck with the battery, it even does the hourly rate.
Yeah, you could set it for hourly rate too if that's what you do. You could set your price, and then based on how long you tattoo, it'll automatically calculate it. I don't really do hourly rate, but for people that do, that's game changer.
What is your face tat by your eye, please?
It's a Mickey Sharp's tattoo machine. It's like an old school tattoo machine, coil machine. I got it a long time ago, but Mickey Sharp's was was my first real tattoo machine when I first started out.
You are the coldest artist on Black Ink Crew.
Thank you. It's been a while since I've been on there.
Did hand drawing and painting play a role in your development in tattooing?
Yes, 100%. In the very beginning, all I could do to get better besides just like trying to scramble for a client was I could draw, or I could stencil, or I could trace, or I could find a way to get my hand moving and trying to understand the artistic side of stuff, the shades, the form, the shape, values, all of that stuff. All that stuff can be done on paper. And although the physical act of drawing doesn't translate to the physical act of tattooing, the understanding of references and the art side of stuff, you could do a lot of that through drawing and try to breaking things down into like simpler shapes. And so yeah, 100%. And then painting really gives you a good idea about how to build up tones, how to create form and sharpen things up from a, just kind of blocking stuff in. You'll learn a lot from each. You learn a lot of color theory and value theory from painting as well. I mean, anything's gonna add to it, but at the end of the day, the only way to get better with the machine itself is to tattoo.
Who taught you how to tattoo?
I went years of just tattooing out of my house and like working in a walk-in shop and doing walk-ins and stuff. But I've had a lot of people along the way that gave me like bits of information that I accumulated into what I know now. So everyone's an accumulation of everyone that's pours into them. No one's actually ever completely self-taught. I've definitely had a lot of influence from other people.
As an apprentice, what pointers could you give me?
Stay patient, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. But there is a way that if you're open to good information and you're able to apply it and like stay disciplined, you can go pretty far pretty fast nowadays because information's out there. And especially with stuff like the design course that we released and stuff, anything like that for someone that's new is really going to elevate your game really fast. So it all depends on how quick you could take in new information and apply it to what you do. But don't be in such a rush though. I mean, like really soak in why you're tattooing and the whole shit, right? Like the whole experience. You will get to the point where you're tattooing, making money, doing art and all that stuff, but your time will come. You just got to do your job to get your fundamentals down and really pay your dues in that way,
Do you have favorite prompts or keywords you use in mid-journey for creating reference?
Not really favorite prompts because every reference that I source is like different. Like it's not the same every day. But I tell you what, I do actually have a secret trick on how to get perfect prompts for anything that you're looking for. But you guys are going to have to get the design course to get that secret tip. But it will change the game for you sourcing references with AI. There's a whole chapter in the course that's sourcing unique references using AI. So I teach you guys how to do that, and I even design a whole sleeve with only AI references in that course. So consider checking that out at iShineUniversity.com.
All right. Next question by Juan. Tattoos by Juan. Is it hard trusting the light grays to heal like you want?
No, because I have a lot of experience in using the light gray that I use on a daily basis and seeing it come back healed. I mean, there is definitely a process of like, how saturated to make it, or how light can you make it, or how surfacey can you apply it, and how does it come back if I do it, this saturated versus this saturated, or all that different type of thing. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's why it's important to have a drop system that you use regularly, because once you get to know your tones and how they heal, they become your tools that you don't have to second guess. So it's really good to become familiar with the tones you use, and then most importantly over everything is study your healed work.
How long you've been working that tattoo roughly?
Today, I mean, we started at like 11:30. We took some little breaks and a lunch break. I don't know, 6 hours maybe? That's a guess though. I'm honestly, I don't know. We're gonna go until we're done. That's all I know. Or unless he taps.
McKenna SDT, what is your favorite machine to run right now?
I love my Packer always, but honestly, I really enjoy the Critical Torque 3.5. Like I said earlier, it's like, it has a little bit more give, which normally I don't like, but lately it's been allowing me to like apply pressure where I want to, and then it also doesn't hurt as bad on the client in certain areas that are already really stretched out. Sometimes I feel like the Packer is kind of overdoing it when it comes to, I don't need it to hit that hard for certain things. And the fact that it is always hitting that hard, sometimes you could really cause some discomfort or even overwork the skin if you're just in there too much. So the Torque 3.5 really gives me just some wiggle room when it comes to that,
What's a good starter tattoo pen?
I mean, you can't go wrong with a Bishop Packer or like a Cheyenne Hawk pen. Those are really good starting points. And then you might actually just end up using that forever, because once you get a good machine that works and you become familiar with it, it doesn't really matter what you're using. It just depends on like how good you get with it.
What's the top 3 tips you can give for improving on creating a seamless stencil?
Learn to simplify your references into general shapes and shades. Keep it simple, less is more. You don't need to stencil every single little texture, every little dot, every little light gray shade. And then make your stencil line the thickness of the liner that you would end up gray lining it with. So don't make your stencil too thick of a line, because then when you're gray lining or whatever you're doing, you won't know whether to go on the inside of the line, outside of the line, middle of the line, because it's like so thick. But if you have like a thinner line on your stencil, there's no questioning it. You'll just be able to go right in precise, and it's way more precise because it's a thinner line and it's getting the point across to you way easier.
What client request will you just send them out the front for?
Honestly, it's like I've gotten so experienced at trying to see what they're trying to get across with their idea and then trying to come up with something that I think would look better or get the point across better. Some people just aren't artistic enough to like get across what they're trying to get across. So some people will hit you up and be like, oh, I want a tree, but in the tree branches, I want the name of my cousin, my second cousin, my grandma, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, and I also want their dates in the tree trunk, and then I want the feet print and then I want their fingerprints in the leaves, whatever, right? But instead of turning them away, I would kind of think like, what are they trying to get across with that? They're trying to do a family piece. They're trying to represent their family. Is there a way that we could do that in a more tasteful way that turns out as a good tattoo? But to be honest, that experience comes from knowing how to design stuff that's objectively good. And the only way to do that is to develop that technique of like designing. And for you guys, the quickest way to learn how to design that way is the Ultimate Tattoo Design course on iShineUniversity.com. So working on the back side of his arm, the kind of the tricep side. We got a lot of the dark side of the face done. We just have to do some of the hair around it and some of the background stuff. A lot of people put a lot of love into the stuff that's like on the front, but you got to put a lot of love into the stuff that wraps because it's a part of the piece and it helps the entire piece contrast and stuff. So we're not going to skimp on this stuff on the back side of the arm. We're going to take our time, but we're getting a lot of coverage done and a lot of good detail done. So taking our time on this back side really quick. We're going to work our way back up and around, and then we'll finish off at the front of the shoulder. Only needle I use is Quadrant. I don't use T-Tech anymore. I don't use Cheyenne anymore. I only use Quadrant needles.
All right, Bishop Skim for 3.5 shader machine. Should I go with Bishop Power One or Critical Core?
It's a good question. I've never used I think I have. Honestly, they're kind of built the same. It's kind of a preference thing, but because of the battery that Critical made for the Torques, I'm going to say the Torque. So just try out the Criticals just because the battery is superior.
Why are you not stretching the skin?
Well, his arm is kind of propped up on this thing. It's already kind of, it feels fine the way it is right now, especially I'm not doing any dark shading or anything. I don't really need to do this. It's already kind of stretched the way it is. And you can get different effects depending on how much you stretch. So it's not always that it needs to be like the harshest stretch. Sometimes, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Like this, I'm doing a stretch, but I'm doing a 1-point stretch. So it's just I'm pulling down on the skin, and then I'm just like doing it. Sometimes I could do a 2-point stretch or a 3-point stretch or a 4-point stretch. It just all depends on the effect that you're trying to get.
So do you think Packer is better than Shader, or you used to using the type of machine?
I don't think either is better than the other. It's all preference. I used a Packer for so long, but then the shader machine, I don't know. I just wanted to try one day, and I just was like, man, I really want to try this because I feel like in some areas I'm kind of doing a little too much damage to the skin. So then I tried the shader machine, and I really enjoyed it after I got used to it. But that's not to say that everyone would enjoy it, but it really helped me give me the option to play around with more pressure, less pressure, that type of stuff. But I've done like whole back pieces with just the shader machine. I'm a Raiders fan, but that's why I don't watch football too much anymore because I'm too used to being a loser. But I'm a Raider fan. I can't change. I'm sorry. I'll follow them wherever they go. So Vegas Raiders.
Do you prefer your own drop system or gray wash set?
I use my own gray wash drop system. I make my own.
Do you add white or gray to your gray wash?
I've done it before, but on a daily basis, no. It's just water, diluting my gray washes and stuff, and using good technique and good contrast. Everyone thinks there's like some white in it or something, but there's not. It's no white. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm packing black, like on the back side of this arm, I'm hanging it out pretty far. But if I'm on like a stretched out area that's already kind of like pretty stretched out, you don't really need to hang your needle out that far. But at the end of the day, it's all about developing like a muscle memory feel for, you know, what does it feel like when the needle's saturating properly? So however you get that, you just need to get to that, you know.
Thoughts on practice skin?
Fake skins, I think, are really good for people that are getting into tattooing and don't want to like fuck people up. Try to develop like a feeling for having the machine in your hand. But I would say that fake skin is definitely different than real skin, and you can develop a lot of bad habits if you're not supervised. So really, you're only using the fake skin to get down, like having the machine in your hand and like how to like maneuver with it and finesse with it, do the shit you need to do. But then once you graduate to skin, there's going to be a whole learning process about what it feels like to saturate skin. That's going to feel different than the fake skin. So it's really good for newbies.
Ink Lord Wayne, what are your preference on hand motion and the angles the machine should be while shading?
Hand motions, you need to learn all of them because they all need to be in your tool belt, basically. You need to be able to backstroke, you need to be able to pendulum shade, you need to be able to mag drag, you need to be able to do circles. All of these things need to be in your arsenal. You're not going to just use one of them. And angle, especially for shading, I always try to have my needle not head on like this, like a rake, but like sideways. So not like this, like this. And that's going to fill in the gaps of the needle and give you more smoother shading. I'll make a video on that too and put it in the secret community.
All right, so Vic88, is your Masterclass course a pre-recorded course or is it live classes?
It's a pre-recorded course where we went really in depth with every aspect of designing a tattoo. And designing is super important, especially in black and gray, because we're really trying to stand apart from other artists, all the other black and gray artists. And the way we do that is to learn how to storytell, use contrast, layering, edges, negative space, solid black shapes to basically create a vibrant aesthetic piece that also tells a story. So it's a pre-recorded course, but it's 10 plus hours worth of content. None of the minutes are wasted. It's all very valuable information. And then there's 3 tattoo technique bonus videos in there if you sign up. And then also if you sign up, you get access to the secret community, which is a private Instagram and page on our website where we constantly upload new content like the tattoo that I'm doing right now. And we'll answer any of your questions. We'll take your feedback and update the course. We're going to do live Q&As specifically for the secret community. And we'll also be doing critiques only of the tattoos from the people in the secret community. So I can critique your tattoo if you're signed up. iShineUniversity.com.
Any advice on tattooing on black skin as far as application, stencil, and execution?
Definitely the most straightforward advice I can give you is focus on your solid blacks and dark shading and then wide open skin. You're just using less values. A lot of people add too many grays to darker skin and then it ends up looking muddy and you can't read it. The only way out of that is to go more graphic and focus on your blacks, dark shading, and then leaving as much open skin as possible. Graphic is the way to go, which kind of lends itself to this style. I already do kind of a graphic style. All you got to do is lessen your value range. And that's about it. Honestly, tattooing darker skin is technically easier, but it's really hard for people to simplify their approach. But that's all you got to do.
I think a follow-up question from the dark skin. Does white help with contrast as well?
No, especially in darker skin, you don't want to use, I wouldn't use any white, to be honest. Any white that you use on darker skin is going to show up extremely bright as soon as it's applied, but then as soon as it starts to heal, it's going to tone over and it's going to turn like this dingy brown yellow color. I would not rely on white at all for darker skin tones. I would rely on purely contrast of open skin and solid black shapes. You know, creativity is a funny thing, right, in tattooing. It's a combination of your experience and things that you've kept floating around in your head, and then whatever you want to add to that. So there's a whole chapter in the design course called Building Your Memory Bank where I talk about how over time you're absorbing different things that you could use in different pieces, and then they tend to like cross over. So like the more elements you can think of, the more ideas you can think of based on a theme or a story. When someone asks you for a specific theme or something, you automatically have a bunch of ideas that pop into your head, and then you allow yourself to play around with the composition and try to create something that's original. So it's kind of a combination of your imagination mixed with your experience. So just try to really absorb and take notes literally and write down different things that you've learned or seen that you liked, and then in future pieces try it out and try to do it your own way, and then you start to develop experience like with some more unique patterns and stuff.
Ink board way, best ways to soothe the skin while tattooing.
Good glide is always good, not dry wiping or over wiping the skin. I know that's really tough when you get into doing like there's a lot of ink being slung around. You got to wipe it off, right? But like over wiping really can piss the skin off. Probably piss your client off too. A little bit of Bactine here and there.
What about big wasp needles?
To be honest, you could try to shop for the best deal online on eBay, on Amazon, all this shit. But at the end of the day, if you want to do high quality work, you need high quality materials. And I don't think that splurging on some quadrant needles is really that big of an ask. They're really not that expensive. They're like $1 a needle or something. I don't know. It's not that expensive. Instead of just trying to find like the cheapest machine, cheapest this, if you just like take seriously the materials that you use, then you're going to not have to worry about your materials like taking a shit on you and they just stop working or they're not very good. Just get quadrant and get a good machine.
Would you go on Ink Master?
Yeah, so me and Jessa were actually invited to be on last season of Ink Master, but it wasn't the right time for us. But maybe one day we're gonna go on. It'd be cool to go on one day as a judge, but I don't think we're there yet.
Jessa been doing good on those color tattoos lately. Ever thought about exploring more color tattoos?
Yeah, she's been doing great, and color tattoos are dope. There's a reason I do black and gray and not color. I really enjoy doing black and gray. I enjoy the way it looks. I enjoy the way it heals. If I do it in the future, it would just be for fun, or maybe because I'm going on Ink Master and I need the practice. For right now, I like what I'm doing.
Do you use dip cups, or how do you clean the needles?
I just use good old-fashioned water cup, rinse it out, and then dip into my next thing. Make sure all the water's out of the inkwell and the needle. Dip caps are good, but I use water cup. I'm old school like that, I guess.
Ink by Tony. Do you run your machine low for softer shades and high for packing?
No, I generally run it the same for both. I honestly try to get away with the lowest voltage possible to get the effect, just because lower the voltage, the less it hurts the client, and then the less trauma you do to the skin. So it's like, yeah, I can get the effects that I'm doing while running it at 8 volts, but if I could get it done at 6.5, then I'll do it at 6.5. But I don't adjust it for packing, or yeah, I don't adjust it.
How exactly do you do the ratio? The ratio with the zipper black for your black?
I'd say about 20% water, 80% Zuper in a standard large cap.
What was the most expensive tattoo you charged a client?
I don't know why I don't really like talking about money that much, but there's a bunch of sleeves that I've done where people have done 6 days in a row and did the entire sleeve and stuff, and that can get pretty up there. But they also got all that work done, my full attention. Like, yeah, dude, like, I definitely try to reciprocate.
What's your thoughts on dynamic ink?
Dynamic's a good starter for a lot of people. I think that I graduated past that and I kind of like tried other stuff and I like better. But triple black from Dynamic, if you're going to use Dynamic, use triple black for your black, and then use the other standard Dynamic for the washes. A lot of people use the standard for their black. It's just not black enough, to be honest.
What's your thought of the FK Iron Spectre Direct 2?
I've never used it, but I know FK Irons makes pretty good machines. I know that their Flux Max is pretty dope because you could change the stroke on it as you're tattooing, which is pretty dope, but I don't really know about the other machine that you're talking about. I've never used it.
Shine, would you be down to do machine reviews?
Yeah, of the machines that I have, but I'm not just gonna buy machines just to review them unless they're gonna send them to me.
What if they send you new ones?
Oh, if they send me one, fuck yeah, I'll fucking do it. But I'm gonna be brutally honest, and some of these companies probably might not like that, but
Justin Burridge, have you tried Quadrant new black ink?
yeah, I don't like it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Do you like blacks on? The blacks have different consistency and different like brands.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. They're all different. There's always like different blacks have different undertones. They could have like a blue undertone, a green undertone. They could have a warm undertone, a cool undertone, a fucking neutral undertone. They could be thicker, they could be thinner. So yeah, there's a ton of variations in the black.
Thoughts on numbing cream?
I don't mind numbing cream as long as we're using it the way I would like to use it. I use it for pain management. I use a nice gentle one that Mad Rabbit has. It doesn't do too much to the integrity of the skin, and it's pretty gentle. It's like a 4 or 5% lidocaine, maybe some benzocaine in there. But I like it for pain management. I try to use it on bigger pieces for sure. Even if my client asks for it or doesn't, I just like the pain manage.
Blaine Vincent Tattoo. Do you need to dilute dynamic triple black ink 20% as well for solid black, or leave it as is?
I think you could leave it as. I think it's already diluted. That's only specifically for the Zooper.
How far will you travel to tattoo on someone?
Honestly, it depends on if I want to go to that place or not. Like if I want to visit a place and then someone's like, hey, I'm here, I want to get tattooed, then I'm like, hey, I'll go. So if you're one of those people and you're in a really dope spot like New Zealand or Switzerland or Thailand or Vietnam or the Philippines or Australia, anywhere, if you're anywhere cool and you want me to come out there, let me know.
Do you use bug pin curve mags?
I use curve mags. I don't use bug pins. Not for any specific reason. It just doesn't matter to me that much, and I don't really think about it. So I think I use standard needles, but bug pins are good too.
Ink by Tony. Would you start your own needle company? Question mark.
Sounds nice. It's just a lot of extra work for not much return. I'd rather develop my own needle set with like an already established company.
Or another question about needles. How much do you hang them?
I answered this earlier, but it just depends on where on the skin, what area on the skin I'm at. If I'm in a more fatty area or a thick skin area, I'll hang it out more. If it's already really, really stretched, you don't need to hang it out as far, but you need to experiment with all these different ways.
And then a follow-up question from that. Does it change during the tattoo?
Yeah, I'll change it depending on where I'm at on the skin.
What's the reason you like Bishop Packer than other machines?
Just the way it hits, it's a very solid machine, and it allows you to forget about the machine and just kind of like work with your hand speed, hand pressure. It's just a good all-around machine that you could line, shade, pack. You can do it all with this machine.
Love the work, man. Would love for you to look over some of my work sometime.
Thank you. I'm doing critiques for secret community members only right now. If you want to join the secret community, we'll have the subscription thing up on our website soon at iShineUniversity.com. But you could also gain instant access if you purchase our Masterclass that's on the same website.
What do you think of applying Saniderm after tattoo?
Saniderm is dope. I don't use it. I had a client have an allergic reaction to the adhesive, which could happen sometimes, but I just go old-fashioned saran wrap, clear wrap.
Check my repertoire, don't check me now. That's just checks involved. I've been feeling like I'm next to God.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Bride Guy, where the guy is Bri.
What's your favorite style of tattooing?
Black and gray surrealism. Sir?
What speed are we running? Hi from Australia.
I'm running it really low right now because I'm using a 3-round liner. Some very delicate stuff. I'm running it at 5.5. Very low.
What bolt do you like to keep your bishop up with pieces like this?
Dude, it's so funny how that's like the main question. The voltage doesn't matter as much as you guys think. I would say it's a personal choice as far as how you move your hand speed, but I would say the lower you can get your voltage and still get the same effect is going to be better on the heel and the client because you're doing less trauma to the skin. But I wouldn't go above definitely wouldn't go above 8. I don't even go up to 8. 7 is an average. And sometimes I'll dip way below if I feel like I can get away with it.
Does the bishop wand hits the same thing as the power wand?
Bishop wand, power wand. Yeah. Yep, they do. The battery is better in the power wand.
What tips would you give to tattoo artists who want to stream while they tattoo?
Just do it. Get a little tripod, set it up, fucking do it. The biggest thing about people trying to do certain types of content and stuff, the biggest advice is to just do it. Because you can talk about it all you want, and then you just never do it.
How do you preserve the stencil for two to three sessions?
I don't really preserve it for 3 sessions. Maybe I can get away with overnight and shit. But honestly, I use Proton Stencil Applicator, which is like my favorite, and it's very waxy and it makes the stencil stick really well. And then after it dries, it's actually really hard to get off. I wouldn't go 3 days though. Usually, I would reapply it after that. So, and then just have good wiping habits.
What do you do when you have no clients but your art is good? TikTok.
You have to gauge whether your art is actually good or you're just telling yourself that to make yourself feel better. But assuming it's actually good, you got to find creative ways to get yourself out there in a saturated market. Really focus on repeat clientele. Any client you get could be a return client. Don't just only focus on new clients. Focus on the clients you have. That'll get you through the tough seasons and like the slow seasons and stuff. And get creative. You're an artist. It's not just about the art. It's how you present the art, and that's a reality in all art and painting and everything. It's like how you present it, how you frame it, how you deliver it, how you show it. That's relevant in everything. So why wouldn't it be relevant in tattooing?
All right, another question from TikTok. Do you lay your darks in first to get your mapping?
Yeah, I do my solid black shapes first. Then I do my dark shading and black shading. Like right now, I'm doing all the darkest parts of this face, which is just like little pockets of solid black shapes. And then I'll start the shading from dark to light.
Okay, Instagram, not trying to be nosy, my bro. But since you've been in the game so long, how far are you booked out?
Nowadays, I don't allow myself to get booked out that far. I used to be booked out a lot, but honestly, I didn't want to become a slave to my work. So I used to be booked out like a year plus. Now I would never go above like 3 months. I just wouldn't do it. It's just pointless.
Question as a beginner starter artist, how can I be more time efficient on pieces? I feel like I take 8 hours plus on pieces, should be less.
Well, I think that I don't know why exactly you specifically are taking too long, but there is a few things that you could pay attention to that'll help you be a little more efficient. I don't like to call it faster. I like to call it efficient because you're basically just trying to get done at the same quality without sacrificing, get done quicker without sacrificing quality. So you're just trying to be more efficient with your process. First of all, you have to have a process in the first place. A lot of people try to figure out the tattoo as they go and then kind of just not really have a plan of attack. Yeah, do that one. And it really helps for you to know how you tattoo everything. So like no matter what tattoo I do, I get a plan on how I'm going to execute it, and I usually execute it the same way. I'll do my gray line, do my solid black shapes, I do my dark shading, then I do my light shading, and then I do highlights. So it doesn't matter what I'm tattooing, that's how I'm going to tackle it. Also, it's just like pay attention to when you're bullshitting, kind of, like are you dipping your ink cap just too much, and you just need to like keep the needle in the skin and and then focus one step at a time. If you're packing something black, don't think about anything else besides you just packing that black, getting it done, and then moving on to the next step. So there's definitely ways and habits for you to get more efficient, for sure.
Do you believe that living in a smaller city will affect the business of your shop?
If you're relying on walk-in clientele and you're relying on local clientele to keep you busy, then yes. But if you really took on the challenge of building yourself a personal brand online and creating an identity and a style for yourself to where people would want to travel to you no matter where you're at, then no. So it all depends on how much effort you're willing to put in and what other type of skills you're willing to learn to broaden your horizons or whatever. Because there's a lot of artists that are very diva about learning new skills or learning how to do content, or they feel like it's pointless. They shouldn't have to do that if their art is good. But that's the reality of the time that we live in. And if you don't want to do all that stuff, then focus on your local clientele and just do that. But you either are going to have to, if you don't want to do that, and you're like in a small town and there's no walk-in traffic, you might have to move if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to develop a personal brand, but if you really want to build something and get it to where people come from all over to get tattooed by you, then it doesn't matter where you're at that point.
How long did it take to brand yourself?
Whew.
You?
No, I said whew. I mean, I started my Instagram in my apprenticeship, and I was posting stuff from my apprenticeship on my Instagram. And even if no one really saw it, there was some people that saw it, and then they saw the journey. Honestly, I took the long route, and I made sure I documented at some level the whole journey. So I've been doing this ever since I've been trying to brand myself ever since the day I started tattooing. And that might seem like a tough task to some people, but it was already so hard and honestly fucking boring and like monotonous. So I was like, fuck it, I might as well just post some shit. So for a lot of people that have been following me for a long time, they see where I'm at now. It's like they've been following me since the very beginning. So it's like I have like that sense of long-term community that a lot of people don't have. That's a tough place to get to because you got to commit.
Bro, as a tattoo artist, I think sometimes it's harder to brand yourself than to do actual tattoo work. How has it been for you?
It's been a long and hard journey. And yes, it's hard, but it's just like any other skill. Tattooing was very hard when you first started it. And, you know, there's growing pains and there's a process to learning it just like anything else. It's like learning a new skill. It's just that like once you put in all the work into learning how to tattoo, you feel like you shouldn't have to go back to something that you're not good at. But sometimes like you got to humble yourself and allow yourself to like not be good at it for a while, like content or whatever, branding yourself, and be okay with that and go through the process and learn what it takes to get yourself out there.
How important do you think conventions are in your growing of your self brand?
I think it's important to like expand your horizons about what other people are doing out in the world with tattooing, and then also just getting that sense and feeling that you're a part of something bigger than yourself. Tattooing always feels like a solo sport until you go out to these conventions and see that there's a whole bunch of people doing what you do, trying to do exactly what you're doing and trying to brand themselves, trying to get themselves out there. So at the very least, conventions are good for just like shaking it up a little bit instead of you just being stuck in your little shop and not knowing what to do. Go get inspired, you know, go meet some people, go talk tattooing, and see if you can bring back some inspiration for you to carry on with.
Did you ever go through the stage of getting impatient during long session? If so, how did you get past that stage?
I mean, I still go through that. That's not like a stage or like a phase or whatever. I think overall it's you being able to exercise patience and like learn that as a core skill that you carry with you or core trait. But everyone deals with that. It's not just tattoo artists. It's just like being able to focus your attention for a long period of time and like stay in the game the whole way through, all the way to the end. That's hard, but that's what people have been trying to do for thousands of years, is learn how to focus on something and shut out the rest of the world and all the other shit and just kind of zone in and hone in on it. Honestly, a lot of the people that get really good at stuff are the people that are able to do that. But I still go through times where it's like I start to feel a little impatient because something takes a long time, but really you just have to remind yourself, you're like, look, this isn't meant to be done like that. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. So it's just like the more present you stay in every step of the way in the tattoo, the better it's going to turn out and the more proud of it you could be, you know.
How do you come up with such negative shaded ideas?
Well, I know that negative space is what makes tattoos pop. Same with solid black. So I look for references, and I look for that type of stuff when I'm designing. Like, okay, I look for those traits in the references and in the piece, or I'll add it because I know that's what's going to make it pop. So it's like I'm purposely doing that. It's not like it just pops up and it's like, oh, I just got lucky and there's some negative space. It's like I tattoo for the negative space. I tattoo for the solid black shapes. And that's why it's so emphasized in my work.
Do you just have your program for purchase, or do you take people on in person to question mark?
I've been taking on people in person for a while, but they all work in my shop, and it's kind of connected to how I run the studio. I'm going to start doing like in-person seminars and more personalized mentorship type things, but as of right now, that only exists as a form of the business or as a form of the studio itself. I've been doing that for a while. I've helped a lot of people change their lives and get to another level of tattooing in life, and yeah.
Do you ever have any issue with AI not making any good reference?
I mean, sometimes, but I try to just be like, I'll figure it out. I don't know. I don't just rely on AI. I don't just rely on this. It's just all tools. You got to have everything in your tool belt. And if one thing's not working, you go on to the next, figure it out. You can't blame AI. It's just a tool. It's there for free. It's like you're spoiled. And if you can't find a good reference using that, then figure it out in some other way,
I know a lot of artists go through a slow season with holidays, but at this stage of your career, do you really actually have a slow season per se?
I think every artist is subject to a slow season. Like, you can't help that. But that's why it's important to make sure you make your clients happy and you focus on repeat clientele, because when it comes to a slow season, your repeat clientele is what's going to carry you, or your word of mouth. But mostly like your repeat clientele, because if I'm feeling like I'm getting a little slow and I need to fill some dates, I hit up people I've already tattooed before and I'm like, hey man, like I would love to finish the sleeve. I need to book these 2 days. I'm willing to do it for this price. Just let me know if you're down. And sometimes those people have been waiting to get tattooed, but they just needed like a little nudge. And you hitting them up, especially with like a little discount or a little something, they're just like, oh shit, like, fuck yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, let's do it. So I think I really focused on repeat clientele for a long time. So now that if I feel like I'm getting slow, I just rely on them.
For someone shooting to get an apprenticeship,
apprenticeship.
what would be your top 5 tips?
So many people want to tattoo nowadays that it's really hard to, like, if you've never done any tattoos or don't have any artwork to show off or anything, it's really going to be hard for you to get an apprenticeship, because you're going to go to someone and be like, hey, I want a tattoo. And they're going to be like, well, what have you done? And you're going to be like, nothing. That's why I'm here. But it's such a huge commitment to start tattooing that no one's going to take you on if they don't know that you're committed or you have proven in some way that you're committed. So you might have to do some shit. I never suggest anyone starting out tattoo at home and like tattoo people. But you could always invest in some equipment, tattoo some fake skins, do some artwork, build up a portfolio of artwork. That way you could show like, hey, I put some hours into this because I really actually want to do this. I'm willing to do more. I'm willing to hunker down. I'm willing to do what it takes. I'm willing to go the long route. Because tattooing seems so glamorous from the outside looking in, but it's so many hours and days of just commitment. And it's just like, it takes an ungodly level of commitment for you to actually become something in tattooing. And even like for me, people are only like, that follow me now are only seeing the outcome, but it's been 13 years of doing this. And it's been a lot of hard, monotonous work. So you got to be willing to commit, because that's really what it takes. Yeah. I'm going to come out with a beginner's masterclass for people that are just starting out, that don't know what to do, what direction to go, what they can do to get better, or how to build a portfolio or any of that stuff. I think that's going to be a good thing for the next masterclass. So keep an eye out for that. It will really help some of you guys that are just starting out. get an idea of what you could do to be productive towards building a career in tattooing.
Is it better than apprenticeship?
The only reason an apprenticeship is better is because it teaches you how to actually work in a shop regardless of what you're doing. Even if you're just cleaning floors, you get some experience actually working in a shop. But this would give you an idea of how to be productive if you just know nothing else of how to do or how to get an apprenticeship, or maybe you're in an apprenticeship and your mentor isn't giving you enough attention, but you want to be productive with your time and you want to spend your time learning and stuff. It could give you a blueprint of what and how to do certain things so that you can incrementally get better and feel like you're actually being productive towards a goal, as opposed to just showing up every day and just getting your little coffee and then just sitting there watching people tattoo, thinking that you're actually absorbing something, when in actuality you're probably not really learning anything at all.
What is your ideal morning routine before a tattoo?
Ooh, ideal morning routine. Wake up, instantly go outside. You'd either go on a walk or just go outside in general. Sometimes I'll just go in my backyard and start moving. As soon as I wake up, literally as soon as I wake up, go outside, start moving. I'll do little twists, kind of stretch my back out, just feel the movement in my muscles, and especially the back, because your back gets so tightened up when you're asleep and all that stuff. You get some blood flowing a little bit. I would drink a lot of water before I drink coffee. Start to stretch out a little bit, drink my water, have a little bit of coffee in that. And then I would do some sort of a workout or exercise. It doesn't have to be much. It could be like 25, 30 minutes if you need it to be. Get the blood flowing, get ready for the day. Eat a healthy breakfast, like a really nutritious breakfast. Take a shower. After the shower, you meditate a little bit, which just focus on your breath and just don't allow your thoughts to get away with you. Try kind of set the intention for the day and kind of like stay very mindful in that way. If you want to get crazy, you could also do some breath work, which really helps your brain wake up and kind of get some new energy in your brain. And then by the time you go to work, you're kind of like, you're awake in every way. Your blood's flowing, your muscles are fed with blood flow, your fucking mind is lubricated, and you're just kind of like ready to go.
What is your go-to meal as a tattoo artist during those long sessions? For example, mine is a protein bar, but something that doesn't slump your brain.
Something light, something that's not carb heavy. I want to say salads, but not in the traditional way of salads. Like I be having salads that have like quinoa, some meat, some avocado, and then some greens and stuff. You just need to keep your nutrients high. And like a protein bar is good as a snack and stuff, but like you need just like real food, like real food. And I think that a lot of people get away from eating real food, and like the real food is where you're going to get the vitality and that like energy from like some really high quality beef or greens. That type of stuff carries a lot of life in it, and you're absorbing that life. Protein bar is cool. I mean, I guess if you're trying to hit some macros or some shit like that, or get something like real quick in, but there's no life in that protein bar.
Are you ever going to get any new apprentice? And if so, how would you go about applying?
Maybe far in the future, but I don't think it would be like an application process. I think it would be something personal. Taking on an apprentice is like a big deal, and I think I would take it very personal. It would have to be someone I met in a natural way. Not like they were like asking for an apprenticeship or anything, but just something that happens like more organically. I don't think it would be like an application process. I don't really treat apprenticeships like that. I treat them like I'm taking on a family member or some shit like that. I would say that you need to do free tattoos. You need to do a lot of free tattoos to prove to people that you could even do the type of tattoos that you want to do. So if you don't have any tattoos that day and you can't find anyone, get someone to get a free tat, show some shit off, or tell them it's like, oh, tip only. Like, I'll do it for free, just tip me. That way you can still continually get reps in. Because that early in your career, it's not about the money. I know you got to support yourself, but at that early in your career, it's not about the money, it's about the reps. So by any means possible, get the reps in. And then you could show off the pieces that you do for free, and then hopefully get some more clients by you showing that work off.
What can you get done on a 4-day or maybe 5-day leg sleep? Oh, this is your client.
Oh, I already know who it is. It's my guy.
Ramos?
Yeah. We might be able to get the whole outer leg, like thigh and then lower calf, maybe in like 3 days. So that should give you an idea of maybe the rest of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To do the entire leg, it'd probably take 8 sessions. But with 4 sessions, 4 or 5 sessions, we can get a lot done. Like you would be extremely happy with that, with 4 or 5 sessions for sure.
Thank you. We'll do free ones then. And also, how often do you apply ointment and redip in the ink?
I apply ointment every single time when I'm about to touch the needle down. I'll just put it down in the area, and then I'll do my thing, and then I'll wipe, and then when I go back, I'll touch it again with some ointment. It's so automatic now that I just do it without thinking. And then I dip in the ink whenever I run out of ink in the inkwell, like whenever I feel like it's needs to be redipped.
I'm an amateur artist. I've been trying to work on my consistency on my pieces that I should do for tattooing for 2 years. What should I do?
Amateur tattoo artist, does that mean that you're not working in a shop? Is that what I'm hearing? You need to get around some artists that you feel that you really like their work, and you need to soak up some game. You need to get around some good artists and use that as fuel. And then you need to have like a system to how you apply stuff every time. So try to develop a system based on like good work, good people that you see, and you're like, oh, how are they getting that effect? Oh, I like that. I want that effect too. And then you learn how to do it, and then you apply it to every piece. It's just a slow accumulation of knowledge put all into your own application to give yourself a way to do things. It takes time, but you have to be open to new information, and you got to get around people.
Could you suggest a tool for a beginner?
Tool, like a tattoo machine or something? Just get you some good equipment. Get you a fucking Bishop Power Wand or something like that. Get some good ink. Get some good equipment. It costs money, but it's an investment. Don't ever like bargain shop for your tattoo equipment, because you're always gonna like wonder if the reason why your tattoos aren't coming out right is because of your equipment. But if you get really good equipment, you won't have to think about that anymore. It's like, you know, you have good equipment, so it must be you. So don't skimp on the equipment.
How do you deal with frustration?
I try to, I don't know, meditate, put things into perspective. Why are you frustrated? It's like whenever you get triggered by something, there's a reason why you're getting triggered, and you need to like kind of be more self-aware about why are you triggered by this thing. And if you need to take a break and take a breather or step away from something and then come back to it so you can have like fresh eyes, then do it. But don't ever succumb to the frustration to where it becomes you, because then you start doing stupid shit. You start reacting stupid, or you start rushing, or you start all of that stuff. Self-awareness, slow it down.
I tattoo from home. I started with thick skins. At that weird stage where I don't know if I should be raising my rates or doing more free tattoos to build a portfolio, at what point do you up your rates?
You don't need to worry about upping your rate. You need to get into a shop. You need to get around experienced people. You need to get around like the true professional way of tattooing, so that you know you're not doing any bad habits or fucking people up or cross-contaminating or that type of shit. And just learning how a shop, like a professional environment, operates, because you only could go so far just tattooing out of your house and shit. You could hustle tattoos, but if you want to be a tattoo artist, you need to get around people that are actually doing it at a high level. You don't need to be worrying about your rates right now, to be honest with you, bro.
How do you overcome creator's block? I just had a baby and can't seem to get any creativity down.
I mean, conventions have always helped me bust out of a shell or bust out of something, because you get around artists and you realize everyone has those same problems, and you're watching people do different types of work, and it really helps shake things up a little bit. And then you just need to slow down your life a little bit. You're probably so stressed out about the baby, and it's like really hard for you to even think about tattooing. So it's like you just need to like slow it down and like reconnect why you tattoo in the first place, and maybe try a different art medium and just do something that's not supposed to be so perfect and stuff, and try some painting and just throw some paint on the canvas and just allow yourself to just not be so caught up on the details. And then when you go back to tattooing, it's just like you kind of have a refreshed view of it. We're about to drop a secret community for people to join, where they could get access to a lot of exclusive content, and then also chat with me anytime. And then we're also going to announce like meetups and stuff like that to give you guys opportunities to like link up with me and just as a group in general and all of that stuff. And I think it's going to be a great way for you guys to feel a more sense of community of people that are like-minded, and you guys could learn a lot from that. That's coming soon.
What's your opinion on AI in the tattoo industry? Do you ever think robots and AI will take over tattoo world?
I don't mind. I actually enjoy the AI because I don't know. It's just another tool for us. Like it's another tool for us to use, just like anything else. And no, I don't think that it'll take over tattooing. I don't think that's possible. I just think the connection between a tattoo artist and a client is too important for a computer to replace that.
I want to do a tattoo giveaway. Any tips?
Yeah, make sure you fucking have a good call to action. Like, you know, they have to be following you and they have to tag 3 friends that are interested in the giveaway and do a hashtag or some shit like that. Like, or they have to sign up for your email list, tag 3 friends and follow you. That way, like through all of the exposure that you get from the giveaway, you could actually get something tangible, like build your email list so that you could send out email blasts whenever you need to book an appointment or fill a spot, something like that. And then don't get too over, you don't have to overthink the post itself. Just make sure it's very obvious that it's a giveaway for people to capture onto it. Because giveaways usually go like kind of viral just because people like free shit. So just keep it simple, make sure it's obvious, and then get something out of it, you know?
The negative space style is so unique. What is even the name for that style?
I mean, to me, it's just the most aesthetic best way to do black and gray. It's not a specific style in my eyes. I think that like anybody that does black and gray and doesn't use negative space isn't doing black and gray the best way that it could be done. I don't really have I mean bold realism or whatever, but at the same time all black and gray needs to utilize negative space. Yeah, I hang my needles as much as I need to hang them for depending on where I'm at on the skin, but my full days are, I mean, if you're including prep and all of that, it's 10 hours maybe or more.
How do you deal with a client that getting a decent sized piece but they're rushing the process and won't allow you to get the finished quality of work that you want?
I think communicating from the gate about your expectations of what they need to do that type of piece. Sometimes people just like jump into it and it's just like, okay. And then they're just like, man, why is this taking so long? But I think you got to communicate to them, especially if you're new at doing bigger pieces. It's like, look, it's going to take me a while and I don't want to feel rushed. So to get the best result, we need to both lock in on what we're supposed to do. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to be patient. I want you to sit, blah, blah, blah. I think communication ahead of time is important. And then if they're still fucking being like that, I'd say just don't tattoo them again. Something like that, you know?
Do you ever shade with a liner?
Yeah, sometimes I've shaded with a liner a little bit in this piece. Sometimes I'll just do it when I know I need some like precision in my shading. And then I'll go over that with a mag to really saturate it. And just for fun, just to switch it up a little bit sometimes.
What is the toughest time in your career and how did you overcome it?
Probably the beginning of my career when I first got into a professional shop, because it's like you want a tattoo to get better, but you don't have clientele. But then even if you do get someone to tattoo, you're scared because you don't know what you're doing. So it's kind of like it's a really weird spot. Like you want a tattoo, but then you don't because you're fucking scared of it. And the only way you can learn is by fucking people up, and that's like a harsh reality. And then you have all these ambitions about wanting to be better, do better, make a lot of money, be popular for tattooing. You see other people doing that and you're like, fuck, I want to do that. And then just every day that passes, you're just like, fuck, dude, I don't know what to do. It's just like a really shitty spot to be in because you have no guidance for most people. That's kind of why I teach people and like I'm so giving with knowledge, because I remember at that time it was so hard for me to come by any form of knowledge that's like, I'm trying to be who I would want when I was coming up, because that was a really hard time in my career.